Morning.
Good morning.
We haven't done this for a while.
No, we haven't.
We've kind of had a break.
Yes, well, we ran out of topics. There was nothing else for us to talk about to each other. So we've been silent to each other for months. But I posted on Facebook, maybe on YouTube, asking for topics. And so we got a bunch of topics. And this one stood out for us, the loudest. And this was, how do I deal with members of the household who are of a different opinion than myself? And it sounded like it was parents or kids versus roommates.
Sure, so basically in this time that we're playing, we could call it red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a challenging thing because, one, they're family, and what that means generally is I have a whole lot of established patterns. I do X, they do Y. It's built in. This is how we live our life. This is what we accept.
Mm-hmm.
I accept them doing weird things. They accept me doing weird things. So it's a challenge to kind of navigate that. Usually there's a lot of emotions that are raw. And then particularly in these times, you've got so many diverse points of view about people hating this.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, I don't like this, this is wrong, and the amplitude of the emotion and the sound goes up.
So what do you do when you're living with, this is the question, what do you do when you're living with somebody who's blue or red and you're the other one, and they like to argue,
Yeah.
and they like to stir it up, and you, because you're you, doesn't want to stir it up, wants to keep everything calm and neutral, and so what do you do in that situation?
Or I have an opinion and I have a lot of emotion in my own opinion, and so every time it begins to have this conversation, it amplifies significantly.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things is it takes two to play a game.
Right.
So that's, if you can understand, it takes two to play a game, you're playing the game. So if you don't like the game, one of the things you have a lot of challenge doing is changing the other person. You don't have as much challenge, though, in changing yourself. If
right.
you recognize I can change myself. And so changing myself simply means I got to deal with this a little bit differently. So it's something we've talked about in the past that has value here too, is we've talked about a concept of 3 bubbles.
Right.
So there's a me bubble, and there's a you bubble, and there's a we bubble. And so in the me bubble, I like life being this way. And in your bubble, you like life being somewhat different, meaning simply you like sewing and I could care less about sewing. So first recognizing that the other person has a lot of things that are unique to them and they really don't matter to you. However, you can be kind about that, but allowing them to have what they have. Same thing with you. Mm-hmm. So you like to, I like to go bike riding, and you don't like to bike ride, have no interest in bike riding. But when I come home and say, gee, I really had this great ride, then we actually have some room in the we bubble to have a conversation.
Yeah, and it's respectful.
Yeah, and it can even be much more than that. It's like, wow, I really get excited when you have a great bike ride.
Right.
Or when you sew something that is really elegant. It's
I don't sew.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, wow.
You're the sewer in the family.
The whatever you create. Where I can simply be excited about that.
Yeah.
Mostly excited about your excitement. So there's room here to both be respectful and independent without having an argument about, that's a weird thing that you do, when are you going to stop doing it because it upsets me? Mm-hmm. So let's take that now back to the blue and red type of personalities.
In the household.
In the household. So in that space, I have my space, I have my bubble, and I don't like the things you're doing in your bubble, but I'm going to allow you, and the only reason you want to, or one of the reasons is, can you really do anything about that?
No.
And the general answer is no, because all that happens is the emotions amplify, and then there's a yelling, and then there's an irritation, and there's no result. And so why get into that in the first place? Because one, it upsets you, and it upsets them. So a number of things can happen. One of the things that can happen is a conversation that just simply says, you know, I'm not really interested in changing you. I don't like where you come from, but I'm not going to argue with you. And because it upsets me and it upsets you. So let's have an agreement that we just simply don't have this conversation. Mm-hmm. So that's one choice that happens in there. And in that space, it tones down a little bit and it allows us to have a we bubble without having that conversation in it.
And even proactively together identify what are the areas where we do match and we do enjoy, and let's focus on one of those today.
Right, right. And there may be inside that blue and red type of thing some levels of agreement that we think, you think X and I think X also. There's something not right about the way the country's going, or there's something not right. So rather than get into the polarized point of view, where is their agreement? And so what can we do about creating something of change?
So that's one solution, is to recognize bubbles and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Another one, here's a story that I just recalled from Spirit Matters, where I was working in Smucker's, and people would come into my office. This is when I first started taking the tools. People would come into my office and just want to hang out. So somehow my office became a safe place. And there's this one woman who was the boss's, back then they were called secretaries, office assistant, maybe they're called now. Anyway, she would come in and she would gossip and gossip and gossip and gossip and throw energy at people. And I didn't want any more of that. So similar to red and blue. And so I just, every time she came in, I would just put the rows up between she and I would be talking to her, I thought, like how I always talk to her, and you know, kind of not really commiserate, but support her. And so all I changed was I put the rows up between the two of us, and maybe a couple of weeks later, it dawned on me, she hasn't been in the office for a long time. She just kind of disappeared. She went over to accounting to complain. So another trick.
So what happened? How did that happen?
How did what happen?
So you put the rows up, and so basically she was kind of talking to an energy that wasn't responding back to her.
I was neutral. I wasn't judging. She wasn't getting from me what she was wanting to get.
So effectively you were allowing, big word, her to do what she's doing, and it was just simply passing around or bouncing off, and you weren't being disrespectful, because that would have amplified that.
Sure.
So you're in that neutrality, big word, neutrality, just simply, and allowing. I don't have to argue with you. I don't have to throw energy back at you. I don't have to sit and talk to you in my head, what a stupid person you are. Why are you so noisy? Because all that's doing is creating a vibration that she's reading.
Right. So
neutral and allowing quite often allows that person to simply recognize you're not playing the game.
And it wasn't even, I don't think it was even conscious of her, on her part.
So that's a big positive. It's not conscious. They just recognize you're not playing the game, but they're not able to throw rocks at you for not playing the game any longer.
I'm just not as interesting as I used to be. In her world, I'm no longer interesting. So why go to the art department?
Yeah.
I'd rather go to accounting, where where the people are more interesting and can feed me.
Yeah, so it's simply, I'm there, I'm present, I'm listening to you, but I'm not I'm not getting into the emotion of it. So there's nothing exciting about me.
I'm not interesting anymore.
Not interesting.
So there's another place when someone comes into my life that lights me up, or gee, I have some attention on this person, or I don't like what they're doing, or there's some opinion in my space about them. I like to leverage that and assume, okay, I have a matching picture. There's a magnet in me that's attracting that behavior and and revealing itself to me, or it's lighting me up, it's triggered. Irritating me. So, okay, what is it about, what's the matching picture so I can clean that out of my space?
Yeah, so that's a definite strategy. I'm going to step into this place that I have typically been resisting and resenting and angry about and grumbling about, and I'm not going to go into it from that point of reference. I'm going to simply step into it and notice in myself, where is my little catcher's mitt that attracts that kind of energy to me?
Yeah.
And from that standpoint, how do I, with all the tools you've got, how do I basically clear that piece of information out of my space so that the next time I stand there, I'm not as irritated? And maybe ask again, is there any other little picture in my space, resentment in my space? And you can even go deeper. Who does this person remind me of in my life that used to irritate me? Because that's where the origin of that resistance is.
And there's no accident that that person is standing before you, even if it's your child or your spouse. On a higher level, you chose this person at this moment to stand before you to push that button.
Right, matching pictures.
Matching pictures.
And you're doing them actually a really big favor, because by you simply getting out of the matched energetic, throwing it back and forth and neutralizing, they get to see that you chose to do something differently, and there's an opportunity. Now, they may not consciously know that because they're liking the argument, but after a while, and this is where a lot of you, and we run into people who say, gee, you're so different today than you used to be. You know, people constantly say that in level 1 and level 2, particularly, that I keep getting all these people saying, gee, it's so much nicer talking to you than it was before.
You've really changed.
You've really changed, and gee, you're now a pleasant person. When in fact, all that happens is they're not as lit up around you.
Yeah.
And so now you've got room for a little bit more of a conversation, because that matching picture is no longer lighting up both of you.
Right. So here's an example. So I'm new to the gym. It's a new gym to me. And there's a dance class. And I go three times a week, an hour each time. And I'm new. And so besides not knowing where to stand, because or just choosing where to stand, and it happens to be somebody's chosen spot. Like, oh my gosh. And there's always that when a new person comes in. But everybody's already in agreement. They've known each other for years, they've danced together for years, and they have their little agreement and their cliques and how they do things. And so here's me, this new person coming in, standing in the wrong place, first of all. But watching all of this, and I can see it's like junior high school in a lot of ways. You know, the girls have these little clusters and they talk here and there, and then one day somebody knocks at our door, and there's these two women standing there who are giving us some information about the neighborhood. But the one takes off her glasses and she said, "I'm Patty from dance class," and I act like, "I'm sorry, I don't recognize you." And she said this thing. She said, "Oh, yes, you know who I am." Like, "No, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. Yes, you know who I am." Like, okay.
Self-absorbed.
Self-absorbed. So the next time I go into dance class, I see who she is. But that whole episode, and she's always at the front, right in front of the teacher, so the whole room gets to see her. And I'm watching her, and it's like, wow, this is really just like junior high school. And I'm watching myself kind of get irritated at her. Like, she reminds me of somebody in high school or junior high school. And, you know, here she is 50 years old, 60 years old or something. And so that gave and is still giving me the opportunity to look at myself and like, okay, where is the match? You know,
right.
Who in high school does this remind me of? And I can now identify it or not and clean it out. And so it's gotten easier each dance class. It's getting more amusing.
Sure, and what the message is I'm here and you should value me because I'm important.
Yeah.
And you are not so important.
Yeah.
And so matching pictures, and so you get enough of that and we begin to believe I'm not important. And then every time somebody has a sense of presence, I don't like that person, begins to be what lights up in your space. So you got bubbles, my bubble, your bubble, we bubble. Really powerful, very valuable tool. You got matching pictures. Where in me am I resisting them, that I can just clear this way and not, they can still be who they are, but I don't have to carry the baggage around in my space.
And there's the rose tool.
And there's the rose. So three really valuable tools to kind of engage with keeping your household together without getting a divorce and killing off the parents or
the
kids.
children.
Right, right. And it's a challenge. It's like, how can you possibly believe that? They do.
Yeah.
And so, okay, where can we basically agree? And then in that real argument, I mean, just as a last throw in here, so everybody's upset about voting in the United States. Well, do something about voting. You know, don't do something about arguing with the government on the things. There's something called ranked choice voting.
Right.
And so can you change the voting structure as an individual into your city, your town, your state in a way that generates an agreement in a very interesting way?
So you're saying, don't just complain and argue about whatever it is, do something about it.
Yeah.
But the arguing and the complaining is far easier than actually joining a ranked choice voting group.
Sure, but you got this emotion and the
Yeah.
adrenaline is all revved up, and whether we think we like it or hate it, we simply repeat it over and over, and it's very stimulating, negatively and positively. But in either side of that adrenaline cortisol rush, you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
You're dying. That level of injection into the physical body is aging. That's exactly what aging is. And so how do I get kind of amused? Well, we'll do amusement on another day.
Yeah.
But so there's some ways that maybe be of value that we've found.
Yeah. Hope that helps.
Go have a good day.